You are listening to an update from Washington with the Congressman from Alabama's 1st Congressional District, Bradley Byrne. Now from our nation's capital, Congressman Byrne.
Welcome into this week's edition of an Update from Washington. I'm Seth Morrow, joined with Congressman Bradley Byrne. And it's been a busy week in Washington last week, so let's get right to it. One of the big bills was a long-term highway bill has finally cleared the House. Congressman, why did you support that bill?
Well, I have for some time been an advocate for doing something about the infrastructure throughout America, but we've got some projects right there in my district that need to be addressed. And because we hadn't had a long-term highway bill from Congress in years, we haven't been able to do that, not just in our district, but all over the country. This bill finally gives us a long-term highway bill. It's fully funded, and it has the sort of funds in it and the sort of categories we need for big projects like our I-10 project to be done, but also some more money to the states so states like Alabama can start addressing problems like what we've got in US 98 over there in the western part of Mobile County. So we've got a number of these projects. I'm excited about this bill. I'm excited about what it means for my district, but I'm also very excited about what it means for America.
I know we've talked about this before, but just to reemphasize it, why do you need this long-term highway bill to do these type of projects? Well,
a highway project, particularly a big one, takes a long time. It's not something you just snap your fingers and do overnight, and you have to have long-term funding in order to have the funding to do it over this long period of time. So we've had a lot of big projects around the country, and in my district in particular, that have been helped because we didn't have that. So now that we've got it, it provides the funding that the State Department of Transportation is going to need to build this I-10 bridge, and it's going to provide the funding they need to deal with 98. It's time to deal with both of those.
Another big bill that passed last week, another bipartisan bill, was an reform of our nation's K-12 education system. Education, something that's important to you. What exactly would this bill do?
We know for so long, I and many others have been complaining about the federal government trying to take control over our K-12 education system. I felt very strongly about this when I was on the state school board. And this bill is a very important big step to taking the federal government out of trying to run our school systems. It collapses a lot of programs together and does away with a lot of programs. It gives a lot more flexibility to our local school systems. And something that's very important to me, because I hear a lot of complaints about this Common Core curriculum, it makes it very clear that the president or the secretary of education can't use direct or indirect means to try to influence school systems on adopting, whether it's Common Core standards or any other curriculum or any other testing program. So I felt very good that we got that very strong language in there. I think that's important for our students. I think it's important for our teachers. I think it's important for our communities.
Both of these bills were bipartisan and had some broad bipartisan support. What does that mean exactly?
Well, when you have broad bipartisan support like that, you don't have to go through all this process of trying to override the president. So it was very important that we do that on these because we would not have been able to override the president. We couldn't get Democratic support for that. But we got a lot of good things in these bills that help everybody around America, whether you're Democrat or Republican. They're really good bipartisan bills because they address issues that should be bipartisan.
One last thing to touch on. You introduced a bill last week to cut down on fraud in public housing. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we've got a local news report of a number of people locally who are living in federally subsidized public housing who make far more than you're supposed to make under the eligibility criteria for these programs. So you got people who are basically rich living in housing that's being subsidized by us taxpayers. And that's just plain wrong. We're wasting taxpayer money. And there are some eligible people who won't be able to get the housing they need because some rich person's living in where they should be living. So we introduced that bill. We're getting more support for it every day. It's something we need to do, and I'm glad we were able to do it.
Well, Congressman, thank you for joining us and talking about these important issues. Obviously, as we get to the end of the year, Washington still has some work to do.
We have a lot of work to do. Everybody needs to stay tuned. We got plenty of things you'll be hearing from us about. Please go about our website, burn.house.gov, and get in there and let us know what you think.
You have been listening to an update from Washington with Congressman Bradley Byrne. Congressman Byrne encourages you to contact him with any comments or questions. You can email him online at burn.house.gov or find him on Facebook under U.S. Representative Bradley Byrne. Stay tuned to this station next week for another timely report from our nation's capital. This broadcast has been pre-recorded.